Well, there it is. There's the stage, the podiums, both of them. Putin and Trump will be there as soon as they're finished with their behind the closed doors meetings. Let's get back to Rev Chief White House Correspondent Brian Glenn, who is traveling with the president, who is in Alaska. Brian, give us what are you expecting to hear? Let me just do that. What are the folks on the ground? Is the media split on this, by the way? I think the mainstream media might be losing. They're blowing some gaskets over there. They can't be too happy with the way it looks from here. It's going so well.
It's interesting because as we've had these breaks, I was able to kind of walk around, go into the snack area and, grab a granola bar and a bottle of water and talk to some of my colleagues. They don't know what to expect, to be honest with you, because we know how volatile this situation is. We know that Trump has even said, if he goes in first couple of minutes, it feels like Putin doesn't necessarily want a deal, then it's off, and that'll be one and done, cut, bake, we're going to go home. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but what I do know is the world is watching this meeting right now, and when it takes place, 3:30 local, 7:30 your time, Eric, we know the world will be watching the stage that's just behind me as we have the media. That's all everyone's doing their stand-up hits and talking about this. So, I think Trump wants a deal? Absolutely. But it's important to point out, does Putin want a peace deal, and does Zelensky want a peace deal? Does he truly want a peace deal? And we'll find out we know. We'll know here in 3 hours for sure. But I think one good sign, Eric, and you like to kind of read between the lines, the fact that they're still talking right now is probably a good thing. Yeah, that they're still meeting. That they haven't all of a sudden Trump breaks out and says, "Oh, we're done."
That's a follow-up to the very warm welcome, the just alpha moment where Trump said, "You come to me, Vladimir." He's clapping for him to come to him, come to Papa. He shakes his hand, gives him that firm grip. That was a great start. And the fact that you're right, Brian, the fact that we're probably 45 minutes into this, and they're still behind closed doors, that's a very, very good thing. Stay safe. Enjoy the historic moment on the ground in Alaska. Brian, appreciate your time. And let's just bring Lara Logan back in. Lara, let's talk about that Orange Revolution that you brought up. So there's a history of, I guess, questioning the democracy of Ukraine and whatnot. And then maybe, we don't have a lot of time, about 4 minutes or so, Lara, talk a little bit about the NATO kind of wild card in all of this.
The NATO wild card. Well, the NATO wild card is probably the most serious aspect of this, Eric, because that's the card that basically is fueling the war, right? And that's the card that's fueling the broader war between, this is obviously not just a fight between Vladimir Putin and Ukraine. If it was just Ukraine on its own, Zelensky would have collapsed a long, long time ago. Between the United States and NATO, those are the nations that are funding the war and that have been advising Ukrainian troops and have been providing the arms that keep this war going. Ukraine wouldn't have stood a chance. Everybody knows that. People can lie about it, they can spin it, they can say whatever we like, but this war would have ended very, very quickly if the United States and NATO were not heavily involved in financing it. And so, and why does that really matter? Well, because, NATO countries like France and the UK have made it very clear that they're going to continue to fund Ukraine, even if the U.S. doesn't. So without, the biggest risk here is that this broadens into a bigger clash between NATO and Russia and Russia's allies. And of course, then you bring in the nuclear component, and now you're looking at something that is life-changing for everybody in the world. And so it doesn't get more serious than nuclear conflict, and that is really what's at risk here, right? Which is why it's curious that there's so much pushback from Ukraine and the deep state. Zelensky has been, kicking and screaming and kicking his feet like a spoiled little child because he's not invited. He's not a grown-up, and he's not allowed to sit at the grown-ups table. And he's like, you got to talk to me. You got to talk to me. Who is Zelensky? Let's remind everybody, there you see Trump and Putin right on the red carpet walking, and they're real world leaders. Zelensky was picked from a show where he played a president. He actually, you can see the videos of him on YouTube and all over the internet in stilettos and leathers and in some boy band and some Dancing for the Stars type of competition that he was in. I mean, Zelensky's a joke. Okay, he's a joke. He's a tiny little man, not just in physical stature, but in every sense of the word. And the only thing that gives him a voice is the power of his puppet masters, because he's a little puppet on strings dancing to their tune. And that tune is the NATO countries, right, that are keeping this war going because they're globalists. And they need Ukraine for the money laundering. They need it for the child trafficking, because one of the main currencies that fuels the world is apparently children. You know, we see that with not just Epstein, but Epstein and beyond, right, to P. Diddy and all of the other networks of children that are used as cards and as blackmail, and that intelligence agencies use to honeypot people. And, you know, this is basically what we're finding out, is that children is perhaps an even more powerful currency than money in the world today. And so, you know, for whatever reasons, the deep state needs to keep this war alive. They've made it very clear. They've done absolutely nothing to stop it. In fact, they're doing everything they can to scuttle these talks and really unsettle the ground that's beneath Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in this moment. Look at what Ukraine did just the night before the meeting. I mean, there were massive drone strikes in Russia. What was that designed to do? It was designed to make Vladimir Putin angry. It was designed to make him more hostile in this meeting. It was designed to prevent those two men from ending this war. And NATO is right at the center of that. And, you know, it's something to behold that the same people who claim to care about the Ukrainian people and about the suffering and claim to be anti-war are doing everything they can to prolong that suffering.
Yeah. I tell you, we're gonna let Lara go, but you are so right. Zelensky there, we were talking about this earlier, Zelensky there would have ruined everything. Nothing would have gotten done. It would have been a disaster.
Oh.
He's all a showman. You're right. Those videos of him in stilettos and leather skirts at one point. I agree with you, Lara. And this child trafficking thing has always been something near and dear to your heart to clean that up and get that
Yes, it has.
out of the way. Lara Logan, is so good to join you and have an hour on this historic day with you. Your brilliance is making our show smarter. Thank you, Lara.
You're so gracious.
Appreciate your time. And again, that podcast is called Going Rogue with Lara Logan. Don't miss it. You'll learn a lot watching her podcast. All right, folks, I'd like to say thank you to AMAC for being a sponsor of this event, this historic event. Thank you to AMAC. We'll be back 2.5 minutes.